Hey, kindergartners. Happy Friday, April 10th. If you're watching this video is for reading comprehension and writing. We're going to explore chapter 4 in our book, A Dark Day in the Deep Sea. This chapter is called Off the Ship. And I say it that way because there's an exclamation point at the end, which means that you say it with expression. Maybe it's yelling or excitement or you're worried, like something that you would say loudly. Off the ship, which sort of tells me they may not be very welcome on the ship. Who knows, though? So yesterday when we read chapter 3, we looked at how the characters were alike or how the settings were similar. And so today, as I read, I want you to think, how are the characters or setting in the story different? So how are Jack and Annie different? How are Jack and Henry different? How are Jack and Annie different from Henry or other characters that we may meet today? And how are the settings different from when they were back in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania in the present time to now back in the 1870s, I think is when this happened. So we're going to look at those two different time frames for the setting, look at the characters, look at the ocean compared to their woods. So we'll think about that at the end of the story today. But right now, sit back, relax, and listen to chapter 4, Off the Ship. "The wind's against us," Joe said, as he and Tommy rowed. Even after the boat moved past the breakers are the waves that roll in and break. It kept bouncing up and down on the swell of the waves. Water splashed over the sides and soaked Jack's clothes. But Jack wasn't worried about the wind or water. He was worried about being seasick because waves of nausea had started to come over him. Nausea means you have a belly ache. He feels like he's going to throw up. Seasick is not good. "Sorry, it's a bit of a tough going," Henry said. "We can take it," said Annie. "We hope," thought Jack. The last thing he wanted to do was throw up, especially in front of Joe and Tommy. We should get back just in time to see the men haul up this morning's catch," said Henry. "This is so much fun," said Annie, her eyes shining as the little rowboat bobbed up and down. Jack wasn't having any fun at all. To keep from being sick, he gripped his backpack, closed his eyes, and gritted his teeth. "Every day we make new discoveries," said Henry. "Off the coast of Argentina, we found over 100 new species. Giant worms several feet long, shrimp the size of lobsters. Caught them in our nets, didn't we, Joe?" "Aye," said Joe as he pulled on the oars. "But the creature that's never been caught is the one these mates should worry about." "What creature is that?" asked Annie. "The great monster," answered Tommy. Jack's eyes opened wide. "What? You mean like a shark?" he asked. No, lad, 'tis much worse than any shark. Even the 20-foot tiger shark that's been following us," said Tommy. The sailor blinked nervously. "Whoa, 20-foot tiger shark?" thought Jack. He looked at the dark water for a shark fin. "Aye, this monster's much bigger than any shark," shouted Joe. "They say it looks like a cross between a dragon and a gigantic starfish." "Nay, it's more like a floating nest of snakes, mate," said Tommy with a shudder. "And they say it'll curl around your body and strangle you to death. Oh, no, that's horrible." "A floating nest of snakes?" asked Annie. Jack gulped. He turned to Henry. "Have you seen the monster?" he asked the scientist. Henry shook his head. "I've never seen it," he said, "but a few of our crewmen claim to have glimpsed something monstrous in these waters just yesterday." "Don't be scared, mate," said Joe. "If we see a monster, we'll hurl our harpoons at him." "We'll shoot 'em with our cannon," said Tommy. He and Joe laughed loudly. Maybe the sailors on the ship are just trying to scare the scientists, Jack thought hopefully. Why else would they be laughing? When they reached the HMS Challenger, the rowboat drew alongside the big ship, rocking on the water. Jack gripped his pack tighter as more waves of seasickness washed over him. "You go first, mate," Joe said to Jack. "You're looking a bit green." Clutching his pack under one arm, Jack grabbed the sides of the ladder. He held on tightly and climbed from the wooden hull of the ship up to the top deck. Annie came after him, then Henry, Joe, and Tommy. When they were all on deck, the two seamen hauled the rowboat up. Do you see him? The life jack's a little bit too big for her. Jack's already up there. There's Henry going up, and Joe and Tommy there. Jack took a long, deep breath. Though the large ship rocked in the wind, it wasn't nearly as bad as the small rowboat's movement on the waves. Looking around the deck, Jack saw teams of sailors working. Some were coiling thick ropes, others were hauling up strange-looking buckets. Jack turned to ask Henry what the sailors were doing, but Henry was staring at a tall man in a white uniform and a heavy-set older man in a dark suit who were walking briskly towards them. The two men were frowning. "Oh, no," murmured Henry. "Prepare to meet thy doom." "Who are they?" asked Annie. But before Henry could answer, the man in the white shouted, "What have you done this time, Mr. Mosley?" Jack moved closer to Annie. He clutched his pack to his life vest. "Well, Captain, "Goodness! What have you brought up from the sea now, Henry?" the portly man asked. "A four-legged, forward-armed creature of the deep?" "Yes, Professor. It's a Jack and Annie from America," said Henry. "I found the creature vacationing on the island." The portly man smiled. "Oh, I see. I thought perhaps it was a monster that was sighted by some of the men yesterday." "The monster again?" thought Jack. "This ship is not a place for children, Mr. Mosley," the captain said gruffly. "Yes, I know, sir," said Henry, "but these two are extraordinary. They hardly seem like children at all. They're quite independent and have a great deal of knowledge of the sea. I thought it might be permissible to bring them aboard for the afternoon and then return them to shore." "I'm afraid it goes against all the ship's rules," said the captain. "It's not Henry's fault, Captain," Annie piped up. "We begged him to let us visit your ship." "Ah, did you now?" the portly man asked with his twinkling eyes. "Why is that?" "We love the ocean," said Annie. "And we'd really like to learn more about sea exploration, sir," said Jack. "Well, you've come to the right place," said the man. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Professor Thompson, the scientific director of the Challenger." "The professor is one of the world's most renowned experts on the ocean," said Henry. "Wow," said Annie. "Well, I don't know about that," the professor said modestly. But he put his thumbs in his vest and began speaking as if he were giving a lecture. "Since the beginning of time, the secrets of the deep have been hidden from us. But now, with our expedition, we have learned many things." "Like what?" asked Jack. "We have used miles and miles of steel to wire to measure the depth of the sea," said the professor. "We have lowered thermometers to measure temperatures in the deep. But perhaps most important of all, we are learning about the amazing creatures who live in the dark regions far beneath the ocean waves." "That is all well and good, Professor," said the captain. "But I want these children off this ship immediately, before the weather gets worse. Do you hear me, Mr. Mosley? Off the ship." And that's the end of chapter 4. Okay, so let's talk about this. So in my mind, I'm going to start by comparing Jack and Annie. Can you in your mind start to think about ways that just in this chapter, Jack and Annie were alike or were different? How were Jack and Annie different? Ooh, if you said Annie liked the rocking waves and Jack didn't, Jack got seasick, that would be one way they are different. Another way that Jack and Annie are different is Jack and Annie really wanted to go on the boat, and Mr. Mosley wanted them to go on the boat, but the captain and the ship crew did not want them on the boat. So that's another way that those characters were different. All right, well, I guess you'll have to tune in again on Monday to find out if they got kicked off the boat or not. Until then, have a great day. Remember, you're going to write the characters were different because, or Jack was different from Annie because, or the kids were different than the crew because. So you can either talk about that with someone or write a sentence about it. I can't wait to see your great work. And stay tuned on Monday for Chapter 5.